Good evening, viewers, and welcome once again to this edition of Catch Play. I'm your host, Godwin Eki, and as always, joining me is my co-host, Mike Home.
Thank you, Godwin. It's always a pleasure to be on this show.
Well, as you wouldn't believe this, now last week, superstar footballer David Beckham was here in the country, and he visited Mount Hagen, and following on with his UNICEF as a goodwill ambassador to Papua New Guinea. Now, before we carry on more on David Beckham, let's take a look at what we have coming up on the show for you.
Coming up tonight, we take a look at superstar David Beckham's visit to Papua New Guinea, National Boxing Championships, Debbie Kaore, and finally 2015 sports facilities.
Yes, and there you have it. That was your lineup for tonight. Now, as I've said, David Beckham was here last week. So without any further ado, let's take a look at what we've put together for you.
David Beckham visited Papua New Guinea, where he was on a campaign through his charity UNICEF program as the Goodwill Ambassador. David's love of football earned him a spot in the hearts of many children around the world, giving the children the opportunity of courage and strength, and one that has also inspired many children.
When you step into a situation like I did and like other ambassadors do, it shocks you. I was always told how great UNICEF were as a charity and the work that they did. But until you're actually there on the ground, you don't see the great work that's being done. And it outweighed anything that I ever thought about what people did for UNICEF and what the staff did, because it truly is incredible. The last 10 years I've been able to go on a few trips. My life has been not just about the football, it's been about helping others as well.
The UNICEF 7 countries, 7 continents have seen David being passionate about his role and how he can make a difference in the lives of children around the world.
We came up with a 7 fund. Obviously 7 is a very important number to me, it always has been. I wore it as a kid. I wore it for Ridgeway Rovers. I wore it for Brimsdown when I played for them, a Sunday League team. My little girl's middle name is 7. I've worn 7 for Manchester United, obviously for England. I'm retired, but still wearing the number 7. 7 different countries, 7 different initiatives that UNICEF have made me aware that really needs the most attention. The long-term aspirations are to help children get education, to help children have protection from HIV and AIDS, to help children get water. I am a father, I am a husband. I've got 4 amazing kids that thankfully are healthy and live a great life. It makes me proud to be able to tell my children about what I'm doing and the stories that I hear, because they're not easy stories to listen to.
As his passion, the superstar was pictured with a local making soccer balls out of banana leaves. His engagement with UNICEF is to advocate for children's rights through football. While in Mount Hagen, David visited the Mount Hagen General Hospital as well as the women's national soccer team, and also played a game of football with the locals.
I always felt that I should be doing more. I wanted to help in a much bigger way, a different way, a way that has never been done before.
Yes, and that was David Beckham here in Papua New Guinea. Now, as I've said earlier, he's here in he was here in PNG. Yes. He's already left back to his country. He was in Hagen at the hospital. He was visiting the kids as well as the community in Mount Hagen, and as a goodwill ambassador doing his charity job.
Well, it's great to see such big names like David Beckham, the world's soccer superstar, coming into the country, yeah. And coming to the country as a goodwill ambassador to see what his charity, what he's doing for the charity with the UNICEF group, and also visiting Western Highlands province, and not to mention the under-20 soccer women's team were up there training. So, what a great way to meet up with the soccer superstar.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I would have liked him to come to Port Moresby and at least meet some of his, fans. And yeah,
it would have been great, but he has his own schedule.
So yeah, Maya, I hope he comes back in the future and meet all his fans in Papua New Guinea.
Definitely, looking forward to that too.
Anyway, we'll take a short break, so stay watching. Welcome back, you're watching Catch Play. Now, last week we caught up with the PNG Boxing President, John Avira, and we spoke about their preparations towards the upcoming national titles in KVN. So let's take a look.
Each year, the National Boxing Tournament is carried out to identify quality fighters to be selected to represent PNG. And this year's nationals will take place in KVN, New Ireland Province. The aim of the tournament is to identify top quality fighters to join the elite fighters for future international events. So far, more than 100 boxers, both male and female, have registered from around the country to attend the tournament in New Ireland.
We were very happy for the government for a start for the funding intervention through G4G program, and we thank the government of PNG for our success. We've actually done very well at the Pacific Games. Out of the 13 gold medal offer, our PNG team, including the females, won 8 gold medals. So that in itself is a record in the games. We've set that the games record. Females, for the first time in Pacific Games, there were 3 medals on offer. PNG won 2 gold medals out of the 3. So we put emphasis on female boxing, or in general, women in our sports. We want to encourage that. There's been a lot of interest shown, as indicated by our number of team entries to our current or the coming national championship in Kevia. To date, there are 23 teams that have shown interest and confirmed to travel to Keviang for the national championship from the 26th to the 29th of November. That is some indication on how the interest generated from our success at the Pacific Games. Of course, I'd like to thank the associations, those who have contributed to the national team. I think this success was based on the efforts that the National Federation, PNG Boxing Union, in partnership with the associations, put in a year before the Pacific Games. We worked very hard, got the team through the national selection process, and we filtered the team. Eventually, we got the final team to represent, and it was a great success story for the individual boxers and also for the PNG Boxing Union.
He said, this year the PNG Boxing Association is planning on implementing a new structure in boxing. In future, where regional tournaments will take place in each region, where quality fighters will be selected to attend the national tournament, where the final team is selected to represent PNG at international events. Sponsor for the event and member of KVN, Ben Micah, sponsored the event with 30,000 kina to help make the event possible. Meanwhile, with the Olympic Games nearing, top fighters from the tournament will join the elite fighters to travel to Fiji and Vanuatu for the invitational fight between the 2 Pacific Island nations early next year. This will follow through with the team attending their international fight in Beijing in March, where top 4 fighters will be scouted, 2 male and 2 female, to represent PNG at the 2016 Rio Olympics.
We would like to start with the restructuring, how we're going to meet those objectives to develop boxing as a sport. From experience in the past, we only get boxers coming to national championship. We want to keep national championship as an high-level competition But in the region, we want to break, and this is the structure that I will explain when we get to at the meeting in AGM in Kevian. We break the structure to regional championships. The NGI will have their own regional tournaments in the future, and likewise the islands, the northern and the southern. So when they come to the national championship, they have quality boxers coming up to the national championship. In that way, the national selectors will have, be exposed to high quality boxers for selection to represent the country. The other main factor is that there will be more competition in the regional basis. We also note and found out over the years that affordability is one challenge that the teams restrict their participation because most of them cannot afford to come to wear a national championship. I think it's best that they compete amongst themselves and they can also bring their standards of boxing or the sport in their regional basis so that when they come to national championship, they have enough fights before they get there. So that's the structure we're trying to implement, or we plan to implement. And we believe that if we do that, there will be more boxing tournaments within the region so that it brings the best out of those boxers.
Yes, and that was John Avira, the president of Boxing Association of Papua New Guinea. Now, he was talking about as well, during the interview about having a proper structure where affiliated teams around Papua New Guinea boxing clubs, they want to put a new structure on where they get to do a tournament in their own region, and then from the tournament, who's the top qualifier for that game, then they send them to compete in the national championships before they can represent PNG at international competitions.
I think that's really good because that's first of a kind for boxing to come up with such structure. Yeah. They have not had that before, and with the president coming up with that would see a lot more boxing clubs coming up with their top fighters, and also taking part in the championships that they'll be coming up with. Yeah,
I think in a way it's good to have these structures in place because then it makes things easy for each region to send athletes to represent their region and then to represent Papua New Guinea, as I've said, at international competitions.
Yeah. So it's good because it helps them a lot now that they've seen that boxing has come up with one of the sports that's helping the nation, and it's becoming the top sport as well. So a great job to John Avira and the Boxing Federation.
Yeah, well, the tournament itself starts on the 26th to the 29th of this month, and Prime Minister and Sports Minister Justin Chichenko will be there for the opening and the closing ceremony. So I think that's something the town, will get some sort of credit for having these people around.
I think, a small town like Kevian, it's just a four-corner town, so it would be great to see people coming in and being part of these championships and a tournament like boxing, and to see what structures they've put in place, and maybe next time Kevian can also once again put the same tournament that they want to at the province.
Yeah, I mean, these tournaments, it's something that I think it should be take place in each province or each region, so that people get the opportunity to showcase their part of the country. Yeah. We'll take a short break, so keep watching Catch Play. Welcome back, you're watching Catch Play. Now, we caught up with the recent Pacific Games Golden Girl, Debbie Kaore, who's also taking part in Rugby Sevens, and so we wanted to speak to her on the side. So why don't we take a look at the interview.
After a couple of months break from the Pacific Games, Kaore was selected into the Palais team after the success of her strong performance in the NPC Sevens. While most of the team members for Palais team are made up from the Spartans team in the CRU competition.
The selections were made during the NPC Sevens. I wasn't expecting to be part of that team, but because I haven't trained for a month, so I decided to go for a run and got selected from that games.
In an interview, she said despite facing challenges between the two very different sporting codes, she is still a boxer 100% and will do whatever it takes with the aim of making it to the Rio for the 2016 Olympic Games.
I'm 100% committed to boxing. During the SB Games, I've seen my potential in boxing, but you know, I can't just stay out and do nothing when boxing is done. So I decided to go back and take up rugby again.
Meanwhile, PNG Boxing President John Avira is looking at getting the best of the best top quality fighters that will represent Papua New Guinea at the Olympic Games next year.
Our Olympic qualifier, that will be in March in Beijing. We're looking to send 2 females and at least 4 boxers to go and press for their qualification for the Rio 2016 Olympic Games.
Kaore is currently in New Zealand with the women's rugby team, where the country will go head-to-head with other Pacific Island nations in the qualifier matches to make it to Rio Olympics and the Women's Rugby World Series. Upon her return, Debbie will then travel to KVN to join her fellow Team NCD boxers to fight in the 75 kiloweight division at the National Boxing Championship. And she hopes to perform well in that arena as well.
Okay, I'm only taking my chances. I know that I can. I'm hoping that in boxing, I know that it's gonna be tough. It's not gonna be an easy one. So if I miss my chances in there, then I'm just going for rugby. Yeah, just to see how it goes then.
Kaore is one of a handful of athletes who have successfully managed to do well in a variety of sports, but this calls into question the ability of sporting codes to properly develop their own athletes instead of relying on the individual performances of only a majority of the country's best.
Yes, and that was Debbie Kaore, who's also the sister of Rafaela Baki Kaore. Now, just speaking with Debbie, I know we've done a couple of shows back, we've spoke about Athletes Commission, and this, I believe, is a perfect example of athletes who are just out there, they've got a certain sporting code, and then they want to switch from sporting code to sporting code. I think this is where Athletes Commission comes in, because she said to me, Debbie said to me that the boxing after the Pacific Games, there was nothing she can do. And so she decided to take up rugby league just to fill in the time.
Well, boxing, after every game, there's always a break, but to fitness level that she's doing, Debbie Kaore is no new to Rugby Sevens, to the Rugby Union fraternity, and she knows how to play the game. And, it's a great thing that she's doing to keep herself fit, even though she's with boxing.
I think why I mentioned Athletes Commission is because nowadays all athletes are switching from codes to codes, and if we start putting proper procedures in, the associations of certain sporting codes can come up with a structure where athletes have to sign contracts. They can't just go and sign in or switch codes. They have to go through proper procedures and do something that's, we're a developing country, so we need to start developing these things into place so we can move forward.
Well, about time PNG's, sporting federations need to start coming up with contracts for athletes, because these athletes are high-profile athletes and they have rare talent, and you need to keep them. If you want to keep them, you need to show some step forward for them. And if you don't, you've seen them in the Pacific Games, they've taken part winning the gold medal, coming off that field, and they're just staying around at home, it kind of loses that interest for them, and they see that the other sports are taking, doing something and continuing on with their program, so they might as well go and take part. And when they do well, like Debbie, she's already in the team for Palais, going to be playing in Auckland for PNG. And look, nothing is going to stop an athlete from doing. If you can do both sports, that's fine. And it's up to the PNG, sporting federations to start putting in place some of these things like the contract ideas to come on board. Yeah.
Well, anyway, good on Debbie Kaore. Now she will be, or she is in New Zealand for a week, attending the champs in New Zealand, and then she will be coming back to PNG to attend her National Boxing Championship for the qualifiers for the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. We'll take a short break, so stay watching. Welcome back, you're watching Catch Play. Now, after the successful Pacific Games, the PNG government have handed over the sports facilities to PNG Sports Foundation to carry out future events that are happening in Port Moresby. So why don't we take a look at the story?
There is no doubt that following the 15th Pacific Games in Port Moresby in July this year, the level of sports in the country will greatly raise to a higher standard. This is due to the new world-class venues and facilities that government of Papua New Guinea has spent millions of kina to provide. With this investment comes the responsibility to properly maintain and manage them.
The venues come under the PNG Sports Foundation as the department or the authority in charge of sports within the country. The venues basically, since games time, we took control during the games, before the games and during the games, and now after the games. At this stage, we basically kept them shut, most of the major venues, and those venues are the Sejonga's Sports Precinct, Tarama Aquatic and Indoor Centre, Rita Flynn Indoor Centre, Rita Flynn Netball Centre as well, and Abissini Sports Parade Precinct. So the reason we've kept them shut is to ensure that the contractors who were building the facilities before the game started actually finish all the defects and all the deferred works that were not completed during games time. So before games there were certain areas that were not completed, and that's the reason why we basically kept them the venues shut, to ensure that these facilities are completed properly for public usage and obviously for the sporting associations to come in and use.
The government agency responsible for this task is the Papua New Guinea Sports Foundation, whose main role is to develop sports in the country through management of such facilities and programs, as well as identify new talents in the future.
We've gone through a recruitment and also training of staff, so we've got professional staff in the different venues. They've gone through training programs overseas in Melbourne with the Melbourne Aquatic Centre. At this stage we have staff of about 65, and we're looking to employ a few more people. The full strength would be about 100 plus staff working in our venues across all the 4 venues.
To take on this task professionally and successfully, the PNG Sports Foundation embarked on various training programs and upskill of its staff throughout the country, throughout the year, to prepare them for this role. These facilities, like the Tauranga Leisure Centre and other facilities that are closed to the public, will be open on the 6th of December.
Yes, and that was the PNG Sports Foundation taking over the sports facilities from the PNG government. Now, Ma, you caught up with them, so tell us about it.
Well, I caught up with David Awa, who's the manager for the venues. It's a great thing that they've given back these facilities to them. And because they have a lot of programs that they'll be running, and you know, these programs will also be making them to use these facilities to identify talent and, you know, other programs that they have in place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got other big events that are coming up, big tournaments in Port Moresby, and you know, people are already looking forward to it, preparing for these games.
It's good to have people to look after the facilities so that it is well looked after,
well managed,
and well managed as well, and you know, people won't be just let out of you know, these great facilities are there, but people like the PNG Sports Foundation have come on board and is taking this initiative and looking after it and employing a lot of people now that you see them on the grounds and the facilities is looked after well.
I think we also need to make it our responsibility to look after these facilities, because for the first time PNG, we have Olympic standard facilities, and that's something we all should be proud of.
That we should, and take this on board seriously, and be part of all this, the great facilities that we have for the nation.
Yes, anyway, viewers, we've come to the end of our show. But if you have any sports-related stories that's to do with development in and around your community, please send us an email to sports@emtv.com.pg, or you can visit us here at Garden City, Boroko Level 2, and ask for me or Mike Koime, and we'd be happy to help you out. Until next time, thanks for watching Catch Play. I'm Godwin Eki.
And I'm Mike Koime.
Good night.
Good night.